went into syndication, so they said I won the battle, but I was going to lose the war, meaning I would disappear after CHiPs. And I did. But luckily enough, the Spanish soap brought me back.
Erik Estrada was a TV star on CHiPs, making everyone smile as Officer Ponch. But behind that famous grin was real pain.
You're going to be riding on that bridge, not painting it, right?
Yeah. Anyway, I hope it's not going to be another 15 years.
His father was a drug addict who abandoned him. His childhood in East Harlem was tough. When CHiPs ended, Hollywood forgot him. His first 2 marriages fell apart. Money problems hit hard. Even his TV partner didn't like him. Fame looked perfect on screen, but Erik's real story was full of heartbreak that fans never saw. Erik Estrada was born on March 16, 1949, in East Harlem, New York City. His parents split up when he was only 2. After that, he lived with his mother, siblings, and grandfather in a small apartment. It was a tough place to grow up. The neighborhood was poor, but it was full of life and culture. His mother worked late shifts in strip clubs to support the family. She still taught him to stay honest, stay strong, and believe in something bigger than himself. His grandfather was the only father figure he had. But when Erik was just 10, his grandfather passed away. That loss hit him hard and left a hole that never really healed. Erik's real father wasn't around much, and when he did show up, it only brought pain. One day, Erik walked in on him in the bathroom. There was a belt around his arm, a spoon on the sink, and the smell of burnt matches in the air. His father was using heroin. Erik never forgot that moment. The shame in his father's eyes, the anger in the room, it stuck with him forever. His mother had cut his father out because of drugs, and now Erik knew why. That memory stayed in the back of his mind for years, fueling his later work with anti-drug programs like DARE. He never wanted to end up like his dad. When Erik was just 4 years old, a man named Pete Panos came into their lives. He was a detective, and Erik was fascinated by him. He had a badge, a gun, and a sense of purpose. Erik looked up to him like a hero. While other kids were playing games, Erik was sneaking into Pete's briefcase to look at crime scene photos. They were brutal and scary, but he couldn't look away. He saw things no child should ever see, and somehow it made him feel more prepared for the world. Years later, it would all come full circle when he helped catch child predators online. That early exposure had taught him how dark the world could get, and how important it was to fight back. Growing up in the projects wasn't easy. Erik learned to be tough, but also how to survive with dignity. His mother couldn't give him much, but she gave him discipline and pride. He worked different jobs, security guard, laundromat worker, just to save up for acting school. He joined the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and though the pay was only $38 a week, it came with free food and free classes. That was enough. It was his way out. He gave everything he had to make it work. At 18, Erik only joined the drama club to chase a girl. He didn't care about acting, but the teachers noticed something in him. They pushed him. And slowly, Erik began to see that maybe he had something special. By 1969, he gave up on becoming a cop. His mother wasn't happy. She had wanted stability, something safe. So Erik made her a promise. If he didn't make it as an actor by age 30, he would come back to New York and join the police academy. The cutoff age was 32. That gave him just over a decade to prove himself. He pushed hard through the early 70s. At AMDA, he trained for 12 hours a day. He studied everything: movement, voice, how to hold a scene. He worked night shifts at diners just to keep up with tuition. In 1970, he auditioned for a film called The Cross and the Switchblade. He didn't just read the script. He acted like a real gang member, ad-libbing lines and waving a prop knife around the room. It shocked the people in the room, but it worked. The director and the lead actor, Pat Boone, gave him the role on the spot. Estrada played Nicky Cruz, a gang leader whose life is changed by a preacher. It was based on a true story, and it hit close to home. Estrada remembered watching his father use heroin when he was a child. That scene in the bathroom, with the belt around the arm and the spoon on the sink, never left him. Over 50 years later, the film is still shown in hundreds of youth centers for its message about redemption and change. But one good role didn't mean the doors of Hollywood flew open. In 1972, Estrada wanted to play a young cop in The New Centurions, a movie with George C. Scott. He knew the role was perfect for him, but the producers didn't agree. They didn't even consider him. Still, he refused to give up. He kept showing up, kept asking, kept pushing, and finally, they gave in. He got the part. His name was Sergio Duran. It was one of the first times a Latino actor played a serious, non-stereotypical cop. That mattered to Estrada. He had grown up dreaming of being a police officer, but up to that point, he only got roles as criminals. "I always played the guy with the gun, the knife, or the brick," he said. "But I needed work. It didn't matter if I was playing a thief. It was like being a plumber. You just go where the job is." Between 1972 and 1977, Estrada built a reputation. He wasn't famous yet, but he was always working. He was in movies like Airport 1975, Midway, and Trackdown. On TV, he was everywhere. Kojak, Mannix, Beretta, The $6 Million Man, and again, he was usually the tough guy with a gun. He joked about it, but every role made him sharper. Then came 1977. NBC launched a new show called CHiPs. Estrada played Frank Ponch Poncherello, a California Highway Patrol officer. He showed up wearing that shiny California Highway Patrol uniform, riding a motorcycle, and flashing a smile that could light up the whole screen. Before this, he had small parts in movies like The Cross and The Switchblade and Airport 1975. But this was different. This was the moment everything changed. Suddenly, he wasn't just an actor. He was Ponch, and America loved him. At that time, there weren't many Latino faces leading shows on primetime TV. Erik was one of the first. Born in 1949, raised in Spanish Harlem, Puerto Rican by blood. But oddly enough, he barely spoke Spanish back then. He didn't even know how to read or write it. But that changed later. Once the fame hit, he started learning the language, trying to connect with the heritage he hadn't really embraced before. Even though the show was supposed to center around Officer John Baker, played by Larry Wilcox, the viewers had other plans. Erik's charm, energy, and big personality took over the screen. Slowly but surely, the spotlight shifted. His fan mail started to pile up. More than Larry's. By season 2, Erik was the one showing up solo on magazine covers. He wasn't just a co-star anymore. He was the main attraction. What made CHiPs different from all the other cop shows was its tone. It wasn't dark. It wasn't violent. It was fun, family-friendly. The kind of show where cops helped people more than they chased them. Traffic safety, rescue missions, kids on skateboards, that kind of thing. No bloody shootouts, no gritty realism, just sunshine, motorcycles, and good vibes. That's what made it a hit for 6 straight seasons. Erik took the role seriously, maybe a little too seriously. He didn't even know how to ride a motorcycle when they hired him. So, he trained for 8 weeks straight. No joke, but he didn't stop there. He kept doing his own stunts, even when it was dangerous. In 1979, things went terribly wrong. He was thrown off his 900-pound bike, broke both his wrists, fractured ribs. Production had to pause. At one point, a rookie driver lost control of a car going 35 miles per hour and slammed into him during a chase scene. Erik flew onto the hood, hit his head, and landed hard on the pavement. Still, he kept coming back, kept doing the stunts, like he had something to prove. Behind the scenes, though, things weren't all sunny. The friendship you saw on screen between Ponch and John Baker didn't really exist off camera. Larry Wilcox was supposed to be the lead, but Erik's rising fame changed the balance. Larry wasn't happy. The two stopped filming together unless they had to. When Erik walked out over a contract dispute in 1981, the tension hit its peak. Larry left the show before the final season. The rivalry never truly healed. Meanwhile, Erik was becoming a full-blown heartthrob. Girls loved him. Moms did too. By 1978, he was getting over 5,000 fan letters every week. He had his own merchandise, action figures, lunchboxes, and even a line of tight Estrada jeans. He was on the cover of People, U.S. Weekly, and every teen magazine you could think of. In a 1979 poll by TV Guide, he was ranked the third most desirable man on television, just behind John Travolta and Burt Reynolds. That uniform, that grin, that confidence, it all worked. And it worked big. Erik Estrada's life during CHiPs looked picture-perfect on screen. But behind the camera, it was chaos. In November 1979, at the peak of his fame, he secretly married Joyce Miller in Las Vegas. She was 40, he was 30. Just months earlier, People magazine had called him one of the 10 sexiest bachelors in the world. But instead of lasting love, the marriage fell apart in only 8 months. Joyce filed for divorce in July 1980. It was messy. Court papers banned them from talking about each other in public. At the same time, Estrada was recovering from a brutal on-set accident. In August 1979, he had been thrown off a 600-pound police bike. He broke both wrists. He fractured ribs. And somehow, he still had to smile for cameras and keep fans happy. But the pressure wasn't just personal. Erik Estrada was one of the only Latino stars on television, and he knew what that meant. Before CHiPs, he was always cast as a criminal, the guy with a gun or a knife. So when he landed the role of Officer Ponch, he pushed producers to change it. He didn't want an Italian name. He wanted to make the character Hispanic. They agreed, and Poncherello was born. Suddenly, millions of Americans were seeing a Latino cop as a hero. Estrada knew what that meant for other actors too. Later, he said it helped open doors for stars like Jimmy Smits and Edward James Olmos. Still, being a Latino role model came with even more pressure. CHiPs was a family show. Kids watched it. Parents trusted it. But the network also used Estrada's looks to sell magazines and boost ratings. He had to be a clean-cut cop and a sex symbol at the same time. It wasn't easy. After the accident, people wondered if he'd stay fit enough to keep the dream alive. Estrada later said his character was a good guy, but he didn't have to cry. The role was flat, and the image was hard to live up to. And then there was the war behind the scenes. In 1981, Estrada wanted more money. NBC said no. So he walked. For a few episodes, Bruce Jenner took his place. But viewers wanted Estrada back. NBC caved. Wilcox eventually left the show in 1982. Most of the old cast was cut too, all for budget reasons. Estrada carried the final season mostly alone. By 1983, CHiPs was over. It had made him a star, but it had also nearly broken him. After Chips ended in 1983, Erik Estrada hit a wall. For 6 seasons, he had played Ponch, the charming motorcycle cop America loved. But when the show got canceled, casting directors stopped seeing him as anything else. He was typecast, hard. He tried to break free by going back to New York, performing in an off-Broadway play called True West. The critics liked it. Audiences didn't care. One good review couldn't erase 6 years of being Ponch. So he bounced from one low-budget TV movie to another. None of them worked. One of those projects was Honey Boy, where he played a serious role, a young boxer. It was a stretch. Critics said he had range, but no role stuck. People didn't want to see him do drama. They wanted the smile, the uniform, and the bike. He was trying, but nothing clicked. In 1984, he met Peggy Rowe. She was a producer and songwriter, and she saw more in him than just a washed-up TV cop. They got married on August 19, 1985. It was his second marriage. His first one had lasted barely 8 months. With Peggy, he had 2 sons. Anthony was born on March 1, 1986. Brandon came along on October 28, 1987. Brandon would grow up to be a pole vaulter, inheriting some of his dad's physical drive. Estrada admitted in his 1997 autobiography that women were never a problem. In his words, he could take one girl out on a date and end up with another before the night was over. But he also admitted he wasn't great at choosing the right ones. The marriage with Peggy didn't last. They divorced on September 1, 1989. It wasn't just the emotional toll, it hit him financially too. He was still scrambling for work, doing gigs in Mexico, missing parts of the divorce proceedings. At the time, his sons were just 3 and 2. Court records show he had to pay substantial alimony. The money from his Chips days was running thin, and the roles he was getting now didn't pay nearly enough. By 1991, he was earning less than 1/10 of what he used to. Then came Loaded Weapon 1 in 1993. It was a comedy spoof that poked fun at action cop movies. Estrada showed up in a brief scene dressed as Ponch. It was smart. He leaned into the joke. People laughed. Critics noticed. It wasn't a big role, but it made people see him differently. He wasn't bitter about Ponch anymore. He could laugh at himself. That same year, everything changed. Estrada got a call from Mexico. They wanted him to star in a telenovela, Dos Mujeres, Un Camino. He said yes. The plan was for 100 episodes. It became more than 200. It wasn't just another acting gig. He was cast as a Tijuana truck driver named Johnny Villegas, even though he didn't speak fluent Spanish. That raised eyebrows. Estrada, known for playing Ponch in Chips, had Puerto Rican roots and grew up in Spanish Harlem. But that didn't mean he could carry a full Spanish-language show. Still, Televisa took the risk and offered him 1 million pesos, a huge paycheck for a telenovela actor at the time. Many in the Mexican entertainment world were skeptical. Could an American actor really pull this off? To make it work, Estrada threw himself into learning Spanish. Televisa hired 3 language coaches who worked in shifts. Every day, for nearly 6 weeks, Estrada studied the language for 12 to 14 hours. He focused not just on grammar, but also the specific slang and accent used by truckers from northern Mexico. He even said he would fall asleep with Spanish flashcards on his bed. The early days of filming were rough. Some scenes took 15 takes just to get through a few lines. But slowly, his hard work paid off. The cast and crew noticed. His Spanish improved. And by the time filming was in full swing, he sounded more and more like Johnny. What started as a gamble turned into a phenomenon. The show was supposed to be only 100 episodes, but fans couldn't get enough. It ended up running for 229 episodes, ending on July 1st, 1994. At its peak, it had over 70% of Mexico watching during prime time. It didn't stop there. The show was sold to 47 countries, including Indonesia, and pulled in $2.3 million a week in ad revenue. The theme song, sung by Laura Leon, topped charts, and even dolls of Estrada's character sold like crazy. For Estrada, this role became more than just work. It helped him reconnect with his roots. He moved into a regular apartment in Mexico City instead of staying in a hotel. He joined in with local holidays, birthday parties, and even spent weeks traveling with real truck drivers to better understand the role. He said the experience made him feel something deep, something he never really felt growing up in the United States. He finally felt close to his Hispanic heritage. By the end of 1993, Estrada was a superstar in Latin America. He couldn't walk around Mexico City, Bogota, or Buenos Aires without being swarmed by fans. In one event in April 1994, a crowd of over 25,000 fans caused such a scene that he had to be airlifted out by helicopter. With his new fame came big money. He made an estimated $4.5 million between 1993 and 1995 through commercials and brand deals. He was suddenly a hot name in Latin American TV. After the show ended, he got offers for more Spanish-language roles and even signed with Univision. Behind the scenes, Estrada's personal life was also changing. In 1996, he met Nanette Mirkovich, a sound technician at a local gym. They started dating and got married the following year on September 20th, 1997. It was his third marriage. They had a daughter, Francesca, in 2000. Nanette mostly stayed out of the spotlight, but their marriage remained strong for decades. They now live in Studio City, Los Angeles, and their home life gave Estrada some peace away from the chaos of fame. He also had two sons from a previous marriage, Anthony, born in 1986, and Brandon, born in 1987, who later became a pole vaulter. In another full-circle moment, Estrada received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He dedicated it to law enforcement officers everywhere. It made sense. His CHiPs role as Officer Ponch made him a symbol of the friendly, approachable cop. But it wasn't just acting. Estrada once wanted to be a cop for real. When he was a kid, he looked up to his mom's boyfriend, who worked for the CSI in New York. Estrada even made a deal with his mom. If acting didn't work by age 30, he'd become a police officer. That dream never left him. His star wasn't just about Hollywood. It was about public service, too. Then came 2002. A new generation met Estrada in the comedy Van Wilder, where he played himself. The movie starred Ryan Reynolds and pulled in over $38 million at the box office on a small $5 million budget. It was wild, silly, and popular with college kids. Estrada's appearance was short but clever. It poked fun at his fame while keeping his name relevant. That little cameo turned into a big win, helping him stay in the spotlight just as the old fans grew up and the new ones tuned in. Erik Estrada spent years playing a cop on TV, but in the 2000s, he actually became one. After starring as Officer Ponch on CHiPs from 1977 to 1983, Estrada joined the Muncie, Indiana Police as a reserve officer. It wasn't a gimmick. He had wanted to be a real cop since he was a kid. His mother had dated a police officer after splitting from his father, and that man became Erik's role model. In 2006, while filming the CBS reality show Armed and Famous, Estrada trained as a reserve officer. Most of the celebrities left when the show ended. He didn't. Even in his 60s, he kept coming back to Muncie, pulling midnight shifts from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. taking part in target practice, and showing up at charity events. It wasn't for attention, it was personal. Then something changed his life even more. Estrada went to Bedford County, Virginia, to support a campaign about protecting children online. That's where he met Sheriff Mike Brown and saw the horrifying reality of internet crimes against children. Brown had created a task force back in 1998 called ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children. Erik was just supposed to be a celebrity face alongside Shaquille O'Neal, but when he saw the actual files of abuse and exploitation, it shattered him. He couldn't look away. The images haunted him. He told Sheriff Brown, "If I leave tonight, I want to stop being a cop in Muncie and come here to do this work." He did just that. He moved from Indiana to Virginia and joined the ICAC task force. For 8 years, he investigated online predators. This wasn't for TV. This was real law enforcement. The files he reviewed were deeply disturbing. Some days, he said, he couldn't sleep. But what drove him even more was knowing that his daughter was just 7 years old at the time. The children in those files could have been her. "It made me mad," he later said in an interview. "It made me really mad." That anger became his fuel. He spent a full year training for undercover work. He learned digital forensics, how predators operate, and how to pose as a child online. He got good at it, really good. He created fake identities, names, backstories, everything. One of them was a 13-and-a-half-year-old girl named Kimmy. Estrada would chat with predators, wait for them to cross the line, then spring the trap. "Once they don't log off after hearing your age, it's just a matter of time," he said. "Then we go get them." He didn't just sit at a desk. He went on raids. He helped make arrests. He took down criminals. Even now, at 75 years old, he hasn't stopped. He works for the Frederick County Sheriff's Office, still catching online predators. He also serves as a host of Divine Renovation, a faith-based home improvement show. It's a strange combination, cop by night, TV host by day, but that's Erik Estrada. He even rode police motorcycles again in Idaho, just like in CHiPs. But while he's hunted predators in real life, he's also had a public feud with another star, George Lopez. It started when Estrada, filming CHiPs in Lopez's neighborhood, apparently ignored the then-teenage fan. Lopez never forgot it. Years later, he mocked Estrada in his comedy specials and in interviews. He called him names. At one point, Lopez said, "I'll fuck that motherfucker up." Estrada didn't back down. When they met years later at a church carnival, Estrada confronted him. Lopez replied, "I'm a comedian, not a fighter." Estrada hit back hard, calling him a bully with a microphone and taking shots at Lopez's personal life, especially the scandal involving his wife, who gave him a kidney before divorcing him after rumors of cheating. "Look it up," Estrada said. "It's public knowledge." Still, Estrada doesn't let the feud define him. What drives him is protecting children. He spent more than a decade doing this work. He's seen the darkest corners of the internet. And he's been vocal about the failures in public awareness. "No one was educating kids about this stuff," he said. "Nobody was teaching them how not to get groomed." His message is simple. Once a child loses their innocence, they never get it back. From TV hero to real-life protector, Erik Estrada turned fiction into reality. Not for fame, not for image, but for something far more important: justice.